One day, Kantchil was passing a farmer's house. He peeped in the door and saw a fresh banana cake wrapped in banana leaves. The farmer and his wife were out working in the rice fields, so Kantchil went in and took the cake. He began to nibble. He went into the field. He opened the leaves a little and ate. As he ate, he walked. He opened the leaves wider and wider and stuck his head in further and further. And suddenly, because he couldn't see where he was going, he fell into the farmer's lime pit. He was very surprised. The pit was deep. Kantchil was a great jumper, but he couldn't jump out of the lime pit. Finally, he sat down to think. As he thought, absent-mindedly, he held the almost empty banana leaf in front of him. "Tuhan, Tuhan," he said. "God, God." As he spoke, Bobby, the boar, looked over the edge of the pit. "Who says the name of God down there?" the boar asked. Kantchil was looking into the open banana leaf. He moved his eyes from side to side as though he were reading. "Here, here," he read. "Tuhan has said it. Today is doomsday. Those who would survive should take refuge in the holy cave." "Who says today is doomsday?" Bobby asked. "Can't you hear what one reads from the holy book?" Kantchil asked. And he went on. "On such and such a day, which is today, the world shall come to an end, and only those who stand in the sacred lime pit shall be preserved." "Is it really so?" Bobby asked. "Do you question the word of Tuhan the Creator?" Kantchil asked sternly. "No, no, I shall come into the pit with you." "Alas, it may not be. Only the clean may come here." "I am clean." "No, you're always sneezing. It's not permitted to sneeze in a holy place." "I won't sneeze, I swear it," the boar said. "It says here in the words of Tuhan," Kantchil read from his banana leaf, "that he who sneezes must not be allowed to contaminate a holy place and must be thrown out." "I won't sneeze, I'm coming down," the boar said. And he came down. Kantchil went on reading. Matjan the tiger looked over the edge of the pit. "Who says the name of Tuhan down there?" he asked. "It is doomsday," the boar answered. "Kantchil reads it from the holy book." "Why do you hide here?" And Kantchil read, "Only those who reside in the holy cave will not be destroyed." "That's why we're here," the boar said. "Ah, I will join you," the tiger said. "No, no, you will contaminate this sacred place," the boar said. "You're always sneezing." Kantchil read from his banana leaf. "He who sneezes in the holy place must be thrown out." "I won't sneeze," the tiger said, and he came down. Kantchil went on reading. Gadja the elephant looked down. "Who reads the holy words of Tuhan?" he asked. "And why do you sit in the lime pit?" "Today is doomsday," the tiger and boar replied, "and we who sit in the holy place will be saved." "I will join you," the elephant said. "No, no, you are too big, and you always sneeze," they said. "You sneeze very much and very loud, and even a little sneeze will defile this holy place." "I won't sneeze. I'm coming," the elephant said, and he jumped into the lime pit. They sat together in the lime pit, while Kantchil moved his reading eyes across the banana leaf. Suddenly he looked at Gadja the elephant. "Get out," he said. "You look as though you're going to sneeze." "I am not going to sneeze," Gadja said. "See, I stand on my trunk so that I won't sneeze." And he stood on his trunk. Kantchil went on reading. "What did I hear?" he said, looking at Matjan the tiger. "I didn't sneeze, I merely sniffed," Matjan said. A dreamy look came into Kantchil's eyes. He suddenly clutched at his nose. "No, no, may it not be," he said. He struggled, and then it came. "Achee!" "He's done it," the other animals shouted. "He's defiled the holy place. He's disobeyed the words of Tuhan." And all together, in great anger, they took hold of Kantchil and threw him out of the lime pit. There was a time long ago when many animals who are now enemies were friends. That's the way it was with Gadja the elephant and Matjan the tiger. One day, in those times, Gadja and Matjan walked together among the tall trees on the banks of the Mandau River. Gadja broke off small bamboo stalks and ate them, while Matjan ate small bugs to pass the time away. After a while, the tiger looked overhead and saw Lotong the monkey swinging on the branches. Wherever they walked, Lotong came along. He chattered and made faces until Matjan became annoyed. At last, Matjan said, "Lotong is a nuisance. He listens to words that aren't meant for him and tries to join in conversation that's none of his business. Let's see who can drive him away. If you can do it, and I fail to do it, you can eat me. If I can do it, and you fail, then I shall eat you." "So be it," said Gadja, thinking all the while that this was merely conversation between friends, because he ate only grass and bamboo shoots anyway. He breathed deeply, raised his trunk toward the treetops, and trumpeted. The leaves trembled, but Lotong had no fear of Gadja. He leaped and swung from branch to branch, chattering as before. Then Matjan the tiger crouched as though to spring. He fixed his eyes on Lotong and roared. Lotong knew that Matjan was a meat-eater, and he became afraid. The strength went from his hands, and he fell from the branches. Matjan turned to Gadja and said, "I am the one who has dislodged Lotong from the tree. So, since we've agreed to it, I'll eat you." Gadja became sad. He said, "Yes, we've agreed to it, but I ask you as my friend to give me 1 day to say goodbye to my family." The tiger consented, and the elephant went away to find his wife and children. Tears began to run from his eyes. When he came to the place where his family was grazing in the long grass, the children said to each other, "When has our father ever cried like this?" And his wife asked, "What terrible thing can make an elephant give out such heart-rending sobs?" Gadja replied, "Oh, I've done a foolish thing, but now it's too late, for I've given my word. Tomorrow I'll be eaten by Matjan." He told them how it had come about, and Gadja's family began to cry with him. All day and all night they cried. The next morning, while Gadja was preparing himself to go back to meet the tiger, Kantchil the mouse deer, hearing the sound of so many sobbing elephants, came out of the brush. "What grief can make such large creatures cry this way?" he asked. "It's Matjan the tiger," Gadja said. "Only one tiger?" asked Kantchil. "I must go and be eaten," Gadja said, and he told about the contest to frighten a monkey. "It's a small matter," Kantchil said. "Bring me some beetle juice." Gadja's wife brought beetle juice. Kantchil climbed on the elephant's back and poured the red juice on him until it ran down and dripped off his ears. "Now let's go to meet Matjan," he said. "When I begin to lick the beetle juice on your back, cry out with pain as though you're dying." Gadja went through the forest with Kantchil on his back. As they came to the clearing where Matjan lay in the shade, patiently waiting, Kantchil began to lick the beetle juice, and Gadja began to run. "I'm dying," he screamed. "This monster's eating me." Matjan sprang to his feet. From where he stood, it was clear that a terrible thing was happening to Gadja. He could even see blood running from the elephant's head. "Such a sight I've never seen," Matjan said. At this moment, Kantchil shouted, "Elephants are all right if there's nothing better, but today I'm hungry for tiger meat." Matjan waited to hear no more. He turned and plunged into the thick foliage of the jungle. He fled through swamps and thickets, running until his tongue hung out loosely and the breath came wheezing from his mouth. He met Orangutan the ape, feeding on grubs and beetles. "Is the forest on fire?" the ape asked, "or is Man the Hunter on your trail?" "Oh, it's worse," the tiger answered, his voice shaking. "A strange animal is on Gadja's back devouring him, and by his own words, he wants to eat me next." "What's the name of this beast that's eating Gadja?" Orangutan asked. "Ah, I don't know, but it's a frightening sight," Matjan said. The ape thought to himself, such a creature could only be Kantchil. To the tiger he said, "Let's go together to investigate." "I've already seen," Matjan said, "and I heard Gadja scream with pain." But he went with Orangutan, and the two of them approached the clearing. Kantchil, from where he stood on Gadja's back, saw them coming. He began to jump around fiercely, and Gadja shouted, "I'm dying!" The tiger and the ape peered through the tall grass. "Friend Orangutan," Kantchil cried, looking directly at the ape, "every day you bring me 2 tigers to eat. Why is it today you bring me only 1? The trembling tiger turned around and fled once more into the jungle. Since that day, the elephant no longer walks with the tiger, because the tiger would have eaten him if he'd dared, and the tiger pursues Orangutan because he thinks the ape tried to sell him for meat. But Gadja and Kantchil, you may see them living close together like cousins. Once the Raja of all tigers called his tiger ministers together to discuss a great famine that had fallen on the island of Java. They came and sat before him, and he spoke. "Day by day our food is harder to find. We are growing thin. What can we do about this terrible situation?" The ministers of the Tiger Raja talked the matter over, and at last they said, There's no other way. We must conquer Borneo and make the inhabitants pay taxes to us. Otherwise we shall starve. The Rajah of all the tigers of Java said, "Very well. We shall send the inhabitants of Borneo an ultimatum." He selected 3 of his tiger ministers to act as messengers, and he told them, "Go to the Rajah of Borneo. Tell him the Rajah of all the tigers of Java commands him to send us quantities of food and gold. If he refuses, I shall send an army against him to conquer Borneo. And to convince him, and so that he may know my strength, show him this." The Rajah of all the tigers of Java plucked out the longest and heaviest of his whiskers, and he gave it to his ministers. They took the single whisker of their Rajah and began their long journey. They crossed the wide Java Sea, and at last, when they were on the island of Borneo, they stopped and questioned each other. "Where will we find the Rajah of this island?" But none of them knew the answer, and so they began to search. They walked this way and that in the great forest, but they met no one, for the inhabitants of the forest feared them and hid in the shadows. The tiger ministers followed first one trail and then another, until they grew tired. They asked each other again and again, "Where will we ever find the Rajah of Borneo?" And when they began to feel most hopeless, they came to a small clearing in the forest. There, standing before them, was Kantchil. They stopped and looked down on him, for they were large and ferocious, and he was very small. "Small one," they said, "where is your king? We come from the Rajah of all the tigers of Java to demand surrender." "Ah," said Kantchil, "our king is hunting in the forest." "Take us to him," the tigers said, "so that we may deliver the message from our invincible ruler." Kantchil thought. Then he said, "O great messengers from the magnificent Rajah of fabulous Java, rest your weary selves here in this clearing. I will carry the message for you." "Then say these words to your king," the tigers said. "Tell him that our Rajah demands gold and food. If your king doesn't give it, we will come with a great army of tigers and wage war upon the inhabitants of the forests of Borneo. And when you have said all this, give him this whisker, which our great ruler himself plucked out of his face, so that all men might see how large and strong he is." Kantchil took the royal whisker respectfully. Then he turned and went into the shadows of the forest. "Oh, what will become of Borneo now?" he said. "When tigers say food, they mean meat. I am meat. If they send an army, they'll destroy us, and they'll remain in Borneo forever." After Kantchil had thought a while, he went to Landak the porcupine. "Friend," he said, "so the tigers of Java don't come and destroy Borneo, give me one of your quills." The porcupine took a quill from his back and gave it to Kantchil. Kantchil returned to the clearing where the tigers waited. "O dignified ones, I have found our great king," he said. "He was resting from the hunt, and his servants were sharpening his claws by grinding them between 2 mountains. I sat before him and delivered the message which you gave to me. As he listened, his eyes grew red with anger. At last he spoke this way: 'Tell those nothings from Java that I am extremely annoyed with them. I am tired of the peaceful quiet that's fallen on Borneo since my father conquered it. My soldiers burn to go into battle. Tell the insolent creature who is Rajah of all the tigers of Java, we don't pay taxes, we only collect them. Tell him we choose war.'" The tiger ministers listened with amazement as Kantchil spoke. But he wasn't yet through. He said, "Our king in his anger plucked a whisker from his face and instructed me to give it to you." The tiger ministers took the quill which the porcupine had given Kantchil. They looked at it in fear, for it was 20 times the thickness of their Rajah's whisker. They returned quickly across the water to Java, and then came before the Rajah of all the tigers. "We have delivered the ultimatum, great one," they said. "The miserable king of Borneo sends this answer." And they gave him the long, thick quill from the porcupine's back. The Rajah took it and looked at it. A dreamy look came into his eyes. "I have decided since you went away," he said at last, "that it's better for us to levy a tax on the elephants of Sumatra. And it's for this reason, because of Kantchil's message to the Rajah of all the tigers of Java, that there are no tigers anywhere in the jungles of Borneo." Early one morning, Kantchil took his bag and went out to steal mangoes from the garden of Matjan the tiger. When he arrived, he was surprised to find Matjan waiting for him. "You've eaten enough of my mangoes," Matjan said. "Now I'm going to eat you and get them back." Kantchil thought quickly. Then he said, Please, don't bother me now. The Rajah has sent for me. All day long I've been doing it for people, and now the Rajah has heard about it. All day long you've been doing what? Matjan asked. Making two people out of one, Kantchil said. I never heard of such a thing, Matjan said. Who ever heard of making two people out of one? Everybody's heard of it, and that's why I'm so busy, Kantchil said. Even the Rajah wants me to make two of him. I think it'd be very nice to be made two tigers, the tiger said. Well, excuse me, Kantchil said. The Rajah is waiting. Wait, the tiger said. Please make me two out of one before you go. Well, the Rajah will be angry, Kantchil said. But if you're quick about it. What shall I do? The tiger asked. Get in the bag, Kantchil said, and he opened the bag wide. Matjan crawled into the bag eagerly. Kantchil tied the bag closed. Then he dragged it along the ground. As it bumped over the stones, the tiger called out plaintively from inside. Ouch, what are you doing? Making two out of one, Kantchil said. Though sometimes it works backwards, and I make none out of one. He dragged the bag down to the edge of the river. Then he kicked it as hard as he could. Ouch, Matjan said. What are you doing? Quiet, Kantchil said. Don't interrupt the operation. And he kicked the tiger again. Oh, the tiger said in a quiet voice. Then Kantchil pushed the bag, with the tiger in it, into the river. It floated downstream. The female tiger saw it from the shore. It looked like a small buffalo, and as the female tiger was hungry, she swam out and brought it back. There she discovered it was a bag. She opened it, and Matjan crawled out. That Kantchil! I should have eaten him, Matjan said. Why are you so angry? The female tiger asked. He deceived me, Matjan said. He told me that if I went into the bag, he'd make two tigers out of one. The female tiger thought for a moment. Then she said, How many tigers were there when you went into the bag? One, of course, Matjan said. What do you think I am? Well, the female tiger said, How many are there now? Matjan counted. Then, more carefully, he counted again. Why, he said with surprise, there are two. Kantchil told the truth. He isn't such a bad fellow after all. And talking this way, the two tigers went off together into the forest. One day, when Buwaya the crocodile was crawling slowly along the bank of the river in search of game, a large tree fell on him, pinning him to the ground. The crocodile made a great noise, and Carbao the buffalo came down to the river to see what was happening. Aye, Buwaya said to him, take this tree from my back so that I can go away in peace. The buffalo put his horns under the tree. It was very heavy, but he moved it, a little at a time, until the crocodile was free. Thank you, the crocodile said. Now I feel very weak, so push me in the water. The buffalo pushed until the crocodile was floating. Further, the crocodile said, a little further. The buffalo pushed again, until at last he himself was standing in the deep water. At this moment, Buwaya took hold of the buffalo's leg with his teeth and pulled. Why are you pulling me? The buffalo said. I'm hungry, the crocodile said. I must eat. The buffalo made a great noise of protest, and Kantchil the mouse deer came down to the river bank. What is this great noise? He asked. This ungrateful person, the buffalo said. I lifted the tree from his back, or he'd have died, and now for thanks he's going to eat me. I was interrupted, the crocodile said. I was just about to eat when the tree fell on me. I think this is a matter for legal judgment, Kantchil said thoughtfully. Who'll be the judge? The crocodile asked. I will judge, Kantchil said. Now, let's reenact the situation so I can see just what happened. Buwaya, take the position you had before. Carbao, come out on the land as you were. The crocodile let go of the buffalo's leg and took his position on the water's edge by the tree, and the buffalo came out on the land. I don't yet understand, Kantchil said. So that I can see the situation more clearly, the crocodile must get under the tree as the buffalo found him. So the crocodile came closer to the tree, and the buffalo put his horns to it and moved it once more onto the crocodile's tail. Is this the way it was? Kantchil asked. This is the way it was, the crocodile and buffalo replied. Well, in that case it's all clear now, Kantchil said. Buwaya, the buffalo saved your life. You are an ungrateful and faithless creature. The buffalo is foolish to help you, but if he wishes, he may free you again. No, the buffalo said. I withdraw from the trial. I don't wish to have any more dealings with this person. The crocodile thrashed about in a great rage, but he couldn't free himself. "Aye, you treacherous Kantchil," he shouted. "In the name of all crocodiles everywhere, I declare war on you." "You're in no position to declare," Kantchil said. And he went away with the buffalo, leaving Buwaya fastened under the tree. But a day came when Kantchil smelled sweet fruit on the other side of the river. He went down to the river bank. The smell of the sweet fruit wafted to his nose. He stepped into the shallows among the rushes. But as he did this, a crocodile who had been lying in wait roared out, "War on Kantchil!" And he sprang upon the mouse deer, intending to seize him by the leg and drag him into the river. But instead of Kantchil's leg, the crocodile's teeth closed on a tough root in the water. "Oh, oh!" Kantchil screamed. "You're breaking my foot!" The crocodile pulled. "Aye, you'll drown me!" Kantchil shouted. The crocodile pulled harder yet at the root, while Kantchil sprang out of the shallows and scampered downstream. He came to another crossing place. He hesitated. Floating motionless offshore was a long black crocodile, looking very much like a log. "Are you a crocodile?" Kantchil asked. The crocodile was crafty. He didn't answer. "Or a log?" Kantchil asked. There was no reply. "Well," Kantchil said, as though he were talking to himself, "if you're a crocodile, you'll float downstream with the current." The crocodile didn't move. "However," Kantchil said, "if you're a log, as you seem to be, you'll float upstream." This time the crocodile began to move slowly upstream. "Ha!" Kantchil said. "Who ever heard of a log floating upstream?" And he turned and raced again along the river bank until he came to another crossing place. He looked closely at the water. Here and there he saw a ripple, and now and then a black crocodile nose poked out of the river. The smell of sweet fruit came tantalizingly from the other side. At last, in a deep and commanding voice, Kantchil shouted, "Oh, you crocodiles, listen! Allah has commanded that today all creatures of the forest must be counted. As Allah has said it, rise from the water for the great census." Crocodiles everywhere in the river began to rise to the surface. "Here, here!" Kantchil cried. "Today it must be written down how many crocodiles there are in the world. Arise, arise from the water and be counted." More crocodiles came to the top of the water and rested there until the river was crowded with them. "Don't move until the census is taken," Kantchil said. "Don't confuse Allah's figures." He then leaped on the first crocodile's head. "One, in the name of Allah," he said. He leaped on the next one. "Two, in the name of Allah." He counted as he jumped. 3, 4, 5, in the name of Allah. He bounded quickly from one crocodile to another. 6, 7, 8, he called out. "In the name of Allah," the crocodiles replied. 9, 10, 11, Kantchil said, leaping lightly. "In the name of Allah," the crocodiles chorused. Kantchil came close to the other bank. Each time he counted, the crocodile sang, "In the name of Allah." And finally, with one more vigorous jump, Kantchil landed on dry ground. "In the name of Allah," he said, "I declare the census completed." And while the crocodile sank beneath the water, Kantchil went into the forest to eat his sweet fruit.